More than 40 million Americans have already cast early ballots ahead of midterm elections today, the U.S. Elections Project said. Early voting, which is also called advanced polling or pre-poll voting, is a voting process by which voters can vote before a scheduled election day. Now, this type of voting can take place remotely through postal voting or in person at designated early voting polling stations. The process is aimed at increasing voter participation and reducing congestions at polling stations on election day. While the US midterm elections do not get as much attention as a presidential election, they are key to shaping the second half of a president's 4 year term in office, this time Joe Biden. Truly, Joe Biden's presidential progress report the elections are taking place midway through his time in office as Americans vote to say if they are happy with his leadership or not. Fellow Amazonians, this is where we will begin the full briefings of tonight on I am Onyi Balance. That's what is here as always. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Onyi. Good evening, fellow Amazonians. On Sunday, Biden campaigned for Democratic New York government Kate Hochul, who is facing an unexpectedly tight race against Republican U.S. Representative Lee Zeldin. Another former President Bill Clinton campaigned with Hochul in Brooklyn on Saturday, along with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and New York City Mayor Eric Adams. And voters have already cast more than 42 million ballots in the midterm election as of Monday evening. Election officials and U.S. prosecutors will be keeping a close watch on the polls for any sign of voter intimidation. And today, including in 24 states where the Justice Department will send poll monitors.
Election day in the U.S. as Americans are voting on the midterm, which will determine who controls the U.S. Congress composed of the House of Representatives and the Senate. As of now, both are controlled by the U.S. President Joe Biden's Democrats, but the Republicans are predicted to check the House of Representatives. The Senate's battle is still too close to call, polls have suggested. For Joe Biden, the elections are crucial as losing either chamber would make the next 2 years very difficult for him as Republicans could attempt to block legislation that the Democrats wish to bring. The elections are crucial for former U.S. President Donald Trump as he said in his final rally that he will make a big announcement next week suggesting running for president again in 2024.
Now, why is Ukraine nervous about U.S. midterm elections amid Russian invasion? Ukraine will be nervously watching the results of U.S. midterm elections, a signal at the Atlantic Council think tank based in Washington, D.C. said there are going to be a lot of world leaders watching these results nervously with a sense of resignation. Ben Judah told BBC, the sense is that Congress is losing its enthusiasm to cut huge checks for Ukraine, he added. With the TPS granted, should we be expecting something good? On both the further right and the further left, there are questions being asked. When's this going to end? How much money are we spending there? And there are going to be nerves in Kiev that the Republican-dominated Congress, if that's what comes out of the midterms, is going to try and kick up a fuss with the White House about the size of those checks, he said.